The booming property market has seen plenty of investors making huge profits, but the frenzy has left others burned, and banks are facing questions for lending massive amounts of money to people who can't possibly pay it back.
This person is trespassing. Move off my property.
It's heartbreaking to watch, but this is the moment Paul Herman's property is sold out from under him. Repossessed by a bank that signed him up for a mortgage he says he couldn't afford.
They're just ripping the assets out and just selling them as fast as they can.
Every day we get a complaint, or many complaints, with people being able to borrow in excess of their ability.
Complaints from desperate Aussies just like Paul, who have big dreams of being big-time property owners until it all goes horribly wrong. Now Paul is broke and battling a very big bank which is selling off his assets.
That's 70,000 I have on my left-hand side.
I went to the bank expecting to get about $200,000 and they gave me $650,000.
To this day, he doesn't understand why they loaned him so much money, especially given his personal tax return showed he was making just $50,000 a year at the time.
It was irresponsible.
I've got another client who is a woman who's been able to borrow over $500,000 on an income of $28,000. So this is not rare.
Tasha Keys takes up the fight daily to our big banks and lenders, an advocate for the unhappy banking group. She says she's had hundreds of complaints so far this year already.
The banks are able to afford the best solicitors, the barristers, the team to be able to win against the ordinary person who has been wrongly done by with regards to these lending practices.
The lending practice that she's talking about is called predatory lending, and it's such a big issue a federal government inquiry has been set up to investigate evidence relating to 160 cases. Now, the findings of that inquiry will be released later this week.
On the street, Paul is doing his own bit to raise community awareness.
Have you got a home loan?
Tasha Keys has gone one step further. The unhappy banking group has used its own fairness test to rate the banks on how they deal with people in financial hardship. And here is what she found.
We find the National Australia Bank the best performer. We then find Westpac, and then the ANZ, the Bendigo Bank, the Bank of Queensland, and then the Commonwealth Bank.
At 55, Paul is now back living with his mum.
Put us in a difficult situation. I'm a pensioner.
When Paul couldn't keep up with repayments, she tried bailing him out.
I just can't go back to work at my age.
It can absolutely remove their nest egg.
Alex Parsons of ratecity.com.au says parents, particularly older parents, are increasingly paying the price when their children default.
My warning for parents would be, make sure that you can, your child can afford to repay that property. If they can't and you've acted as a guarantor for that property, your assets will be up in order to recover that mortgage. And, that can really tear families apart.
He said the other very big danger zone for older Australians is taking out a mortgage later in life, because old or not, the banks will give you the money.
The majority of home loans, in fact up to 90% of home loans, are available for people up into their 70s.
Families have built up property assets and the banks have just wiped out those assets.
Paul's still waiting to find out what will happen to the other properties that turned out to be his undoing. The warning to others is don't let the banks decide how much you borrow.
I don't think we will ever see the end of people being loaned too much money as long as there's money to be made out of that process.
Sold! 175,000.
The National Australia Bank, which provided Paul Herman's loan, tells us it's committed to supporting customers through times of difficulty. In 2009, it established its hardship program, NABCare, to help borrowers in need. The full statement is on our website.